These are 4 parent hacks you can teach your kids about self-restraint when it comes to junk food. And you don't need to tell them off. It's self-controlled by the kids themselves. As you know, just like my kids who are 5 and 7, they love their junk food. They have their junk food stash. And as you know, we place them at the bottom of the pantry and not above there so they can't reach it. They can actually easily reach this. But how do we control them self-restraints? For example, a lot of Kinder Surprise, all sorts of lollies and sour lollies, Tim Tams, and then another one of those. All these lollies are at their reach, but how do you teach them self-restraint? So my kids are 5 and 7, 2 boys, and these are the 4 junk food, self-restraint, self-discipline hacks that has worked for us. Let's go. Hack number 1 to develop self-discipline in your kids at an early age is don't do 100% no, do 200% yes. Let me digress. So example, on average for parents, when their young kids want lollies, junk food, because they have additives, preservatives, and all these toxic traits inside those things that the kids want to eat, the parents will go, no, you can't have it. And they're like, oh, but I want it. And they're like, no, you can't have it. That's what I call 100% no. Don't do 100% no. Don't just reject your kids and just block them off, right? What we do is a 200% yes. So what that means is you do the opposite. You don't just say no, you say yeah, but let's go further than that. So to give you an example, right? My 5 and 7-year-old, about a year ago, they were really obsessed with sour worm lollies. They had it in a kids' party because we never gave it to them before, and then they became obsessed with it. So before, we'll say no to them because when they eat too much, one of them will get ulcers. And then when we say no to them, they'll crave it. And then what happens then, we'll get into arguments over bloody lollies, right? They won't listen to us. And sometimes it gets to a point where they learn to lie and sneak the lollies and get it from their friends. And I'll tell them that they're eating them. And then we find them in the pockets. But since adopting this first hack, which is go 200% yes and avoid the 100% no, which is go along with them, all right? About 6 months ago, we're like, hey, you want sour worm lollies? Okay, we'll buy bloody 10, 15 bags of sour worm lollies, right? That's a 200% yes. We go extreme. We eat it for breakfast. We eat it for lunch. We eat it for dinner. We just eat sour worm lollies, guys, all right? And there was no argument. We agree with them, right? And then we let them see the consequences, right? So what happens is one of them nearly vomited because they ate too much. And at that point, I'm like, hey, do you guys want more? I mean, I can go to Woolies and buy another 10 pack. And they're like, no, Dad, we don't want sour worm lollies anymore. And yes, I know that's a bit extreme, but that builds trust between you and your child because you let them see the consequence of their decision by saying yes, rather than always arguing, saying no, because they don't get your point of view, but they finally see your point of view. Part of teaching self-restraint and self-discipline to kids is letting them see the toxic traits consequence and allow them to really experience that rather than being, oh, I'm the parent, I said no, no is no. That doesn't really foster trust between you and your kids, and also they'll just argue with you. And then at the end, they just lie and sneak behind your back. And the second thing that we did was that we, as a parent, would make alternatives to the junk food and the bad food that we don't want them to eat, right? So for example, they like sour worms and we don't want them to eat them because there's additives, preservatives, artificial colors, etc., right? All that toxic stuff we don't want to enter their little bodies, right? So what we do is we ask our kids, well, what do you like about sour worm lollies, right? And back then they were like, hey, they're sour, they're a bit weird, and then they look like bloody worms. So the alternative that we did as parents is that, well, we looked for the lowest branch to the alternative to sour worm lollies, which what we thought was airplane jelly. We got airplane, then we mixed it up. We added a bit of lemon to make it kind of sour, add a bit of honey to make it sweet, and our kids loved it. And partly because it tastes like the bloody sour worm. There's no way it can be close to that because that tastes great with the additives because they were in the process of making it and then making it the alternative which they produce, and they actually enjoy that process. And part of teaching self-restraint and self-discipline to young kids is that you need to give them alternatives to the bad traits you don't want them to do. You're just going to go, oh, no, you can't do it. That's it, I'm the parent. You got to give them a bloody alternative, guys. Don't be lazy. And the third hack we did to curb their addiction to junk food and bloody lollies is that we told them you got to use your allowance to buy the lollies and the junk food you want, right? Not our money, right? Because even if our kids are 5 and 7, it's basic human nature, right? They have to rethink, I've got to use my own bloody money. Is it really worth it? Can I be using that saving for other things like, toys I want to buy? And this hack is really good for your kids to develop self-restraint and self-discipline because it puts the onus back to their allowance, their money, right? So it avoids argument. It's like, hey, you want to buy it? We let you buy it, but use your own money. And just like the character in my new book, Nana the Naughty Savings Jar, this character decides that, no, it's actually not worth it and it's better to save the money. Which, by the way, is a plug and it's coming out very soon, guys. And hack number 4 is we utilize the power of social media. For example, there's TikToks, videos on Instagram, YouTube, whatever, that shows the bad effects of lollies and junk food, right? For example, a video show how much sugar is in a Mars bar, right? Some videos show, ulcers, mouth ulcers, stomach ulcers, some kids having attention deficits. We then send it to our kids, let them watch it, and then they go, hey, is that really worth it? That, you eat these lollies and it might affect your growth. You might not be tall enough to, for example, one of my kids likes to play basketball. That might affect you. And this hack is just basically educating your kids rather than saying, no, you can't do it. And because we're the parent, no, you really explain to them. You go, hey, there's actually preservatives. And what happens is we teach our kids what the preservatives means, right? So for example, my kids will start looking at packages and behind the back and look at what preservatives they are. And what happens is they'll start to recognize some preservatives are not good for them. And they'll start filtering what are good lollies and what are bad lollies. And by introducing this education hack early, your kids learn self-restraint and self-discipline. Because what happens is they learn to analyze and think for themselves. Because basically what self-restraint is you want to do something emotional, impulsive, but the logical side of your brain kicks in and goes, hey, there's actually cons to what you want to do. Maybe don't do it. And as a bonus tip, if you watched thus far, which means you're a parent that loves their kids, sometimes for us, we deliberately buy junk food for them. Yes. What happens is we want to be associated with junk food. We want to be the gatekeeper of junk food. We don't want to be the person that when they think of junk food, or mum and dad's going to say no, let's avoid them. We want to train them from an early age for, junk food replaced to anything that is bad or considered a taboo, that we are not against it, right? We are not the bad guy. But even though as parents we are not against it and we allow you to do it, we have to come to some sort of agreement on how the junk food is eaten. For example, my 7-year-old loves Tim Tams, right? So what I do to him is like, hey, I'm happy to use my money to buy Tim Tams for you, but our agreement is that you have 20 days to eat all these Tim Tams, which means, per day, you have one, and that's it. Do you agree or disagree? And if you agree, then I'll buy it. You might be wondering, Q, why would you do this? Well, what happens is you teach them discipline and self-restraint. Because rather than acting impulsively as young kids, 5 and 7, and smash through the Tim Tams in the next 1 or 2 days, they know, okay, I have an agreement with my dad, all right? We have trust. He loves me. He bought the Tim Tam for me. But I'm going to eat 1 a day. Because that's our agreement. What happens, that develops self-restraint. They control themselves because they know that our agreement is to eat 1 a day. And eventually with these 4 hacks plus the bonus hack, it teaches our kids to have self-restraint and self-discipline. And that is why, guys, we don't need sneaky tactics to place our lollies all the way up there so our kids don't reach it, but actually make it really readily available from them over here. Because we know after introducing these 4 hacks in the last 6 months, our kids have a less desire to actually eat lollies and junk food. And that really means they've habitually adopted self-restraint and self-discipline through the act of lollies. And this would feed through their future studies when they are in primary to high school, future goals they want to achieve through sports or academic. Hopefully these 4 hacks help you. Jump in the comments, let me know what you think.